but if you don't want to be on camera. Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us live on stream and here in person. We are excited to have you for our Chapel Hill potluck and canning demo. And we are so grateful to have Nancy and her husband with us joining today to show us, right, all the cool things about canning that we can do, right, safely, effectively, and to have fun with it. And so Nancy has, I was saying over 30, she probably says more than 45 years of experience canning. So we have a great resource here to be able to pick her brain and ask questions in the room and online. Thank you, Cheryl and Kathy, for live streaming for us and getting this all situated. We are in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, have a great crowd behind the scenes, and we are ready to get started. So thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
You guys enjoy.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited about this. We were going to do this last summer, and I had a little medical issue, and it got put off, but here we are. And I want to, today we're going to talk about steam canning and water bath canning. They're interchangeable. You can either use a water bath canner. I have a steam canner because it uses less water and it's easier to handle and stuff. But we're going to talk about those foods today, and then we'll do a second one where we talk about pressure canning. But these things are things that need to have a certain amount of acid in them. The things that can be safely canned by water bath or steam canning have to be, are the acidic foods. So it's your pickles, salsas, jams and jellies, things that have a lot of natural acid or added acid to them. So we're going to be doing salsa and apple butter, and the request from one of the people here was to do a sweet thing that was not sweetened with processed sugars. So we're doing apple butter that's with date syrup, and it's delicious. It's really, really good. But before we get started, I think the first thing I want to talk about are tools that you need to do this work. First of all, you need jars. Be sure that you're using jars that are specifically for canning. Don't try to use repurposed jars from your kitchen. That's a no-no when it comes to canning because we don't know the strength of the jar and the lids may or may not fit. And you want to use two-piece lids, always. This is one of my favorite brands of lids. You know, you get lids with the jars. These are all brand new jars. I washed them in the dishwasher last night. But the lids that come with some of those jars, the sealant sometimes fails. And so I always buy other lids because I think they work better and I don't want my lid to fail. So these are 4 jars, FORJARS lids, and I like them. The other lids that I really love, and I didn't have any small regular sized lids, I had wide mouth lids, is called Superb. And both of those are really excellent excellent lids. I've had less failures with those than I have with any other lids. So that's the first thing you want. The lids can only be used once. You cannot reuse a lid. So you'll end up, if you do a lot of canning like I do, you'll end up with a bunch of lids. You can use them to store things in the fridge. You know, if you're like, have leftovers and you're storing them in a mason jar, you can use those lids for stuff like that. You just can't can with them because the sealant, the stuff around the edge here won't seal more than once. So that's really important to know. So this is my favorite tool of all. This is a canning funnel. And what makes it so great is it fits in the mouth of the jar and you don't get lots of stuff all over the jar while you're canning it. I mean, while you're filling the jars and things like that. It's an excellent tool and I recommend it. This is a jar lifter. It's for taking the jars in and out of the hot places that you're moving them. It's really important. This is a debubbler. So one of the things that has to happen when you can is air gets trapped in the jar as you're filling it. So you want to make sure that before you put the lid on, you go around the jar like this and release that air. And what may or may not happen with some things, it happens more with pickles than it does with anything we're going to can. The level may go down and you may have to fill it up a little bit more. It will adjust with the air coming out. It may give you more space in your jar. So the debubbler is really nice, and every recipe comes talking about head space. For instance, this salsa recipe that I'm going to use says a 1/2 inch head space. So what's great about this little tool is it has 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, and you can just put it on the rim of the jar and you can see how close your headspace is. You learn to eyeball it fairly well later on, but when you first start, you probably need to do that because it has a lot to do with how well the jars seal. You don't want to overfill your jars, and you don't want to leave a lot of extra space because we need food in our jars, right? So that's really important. This is a tool that you use afterwards. This is a jar opener, so you'll have your lid on here and it'll be sealed really tight, and you can put this on here and take the lid off, and it makes things so much easier than to dislodge the lid when you're getting ready to use the contents of the jar. So those are my favorite tools. I've got a ladle out here because you got to have a ladle to get stuff into the jars, but that's a no-brainer. This is the steam canner. It has this gauge at the top right here, which when you're steam canning, it has a tray in the bottom, and you put water up to the level of the tray but not over the tray, and then you put your jars on here and you set this on here, and it has zone 1, 2, and 3 on here. We're zone 1. That means we're less than 1,000 feet elevation. You do this by elevation. If you happen to be in Colorado, you're probably in zone 3, and you have to process things longer. So, but we're in zone 1, and so when the lid is on this thing and you turn on your heat underneath it, you watch to see that it's in the zone before you start timing, and it tells you how long to time things. I'll get into that in a minute, but that's really, I love this steam canner. It's called a Fruit Saver, and it's so much easier than trying to carry gallons of water in a water bath canner where you're sinking. The jars have to be covered by 2 inches of water, and it has to be boiling for a certain amount of time and all that stuff. This is a lot safer in my opinion because you're not dealing with big water and all that stuff. I don't remember how much it costs.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it doesn't use pressure, or does it use pressure?
No, this is not pressure. This is steam canning. This is for anything that is highly acidic.
Okay.
That's what you can safely can in a steam canner or a water bath canner. So that's really important to know. So always use a recipe from a trusted source. There are a lot of things online that are grandma's old recipes, and a lot of them are, you take them and you don't even process them. You turn the jar upside down and it's supposed to seal and all that stuff. Well, that's not safe. And so you want to use trusted recipes. Some of my favorite books are these Ball canning books. This one is the New Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. This one is the Complete Book of Canning and Preserving. And this book I brought because oh no.
I was fixing the seat, sorry.
That's all right. And this is a really good book. This Marissa McClellan does naturally sweet food in jars. So she uses honey, which a vegan wouldn't use, but she also uses maple syrup and other sweeteners that are not processed sugar, and they're lower sugar recipes. One of the interesting things is if you're doing a jam and the jam calls for a lot of, if you use like ball pectin or some of those other pectins that you see in the store, they require you to use a lot of sugar. But if you use Pomona's pectin, you can greatly reduce the sugar. Like I made, I made peach jam this summer, and with Pomona's pectin, I was able to cut the sugar to 1 cup for this whole batch of stuff. If I had used the regular pectin like Sure Gel or any of those things, it called for 7 cups of sugar. So you can really cut down. So I highly recommend Pomona's pectin. This apple butter doesn't need pectin. Apples are full of pectin anyway, and so it'll set up. But if you're trying to do a jam, be sure to use Pomona's pectin. Yes?
If you use Pomona's pectin, does it require a certain type of sugar?
You can use some of these alternative sugars with it too. You can. I have not done that. I've used maple syrup, and it works fine. Yeah. So that is.
This canner costs about between $65 and $70. This is an aluminum. You get a stainless steel too.
Yeah. The thing is aluminum works just fine in this situation because your food is not going to touch the aluminum at all because it's going to be in the jars. And so it's less weight and a little less expensive, I think. Try to follow the recipe exactly, especially when you're talking about the acid in the recipe. Don't skimp on it. Or if you're talking about the ratio of vegetables to liquid and stuff like that, those are really important things to know and to not mess up too much. You can sometimes, you can estimate things a little bit, but you got to be careful because, so this recipe for salsa has 5 pounds of tomatoes as purchased. This is from the National Center for Home Preservation, this recipe. And 2 pounds of chili peppers. Well, my chili peppers were really hot.
Yeah.
I know, Jeremy, but I toned it down a little bit. And what I ended up doing was using 1 pound of jalapenos and some green peppers because it's too hot. I mean, I was afraid it'd be too hot for some people. The other thing that's interesting is you can always vary the dry ingredients like spices. You can do those to taste. I mean, like if you want more oregano in a tomato sauce, you can put it in. You want to use dried spices. This is really weird. Fresh spices are hard to can. You can do it as long as they're cooked. Many of the salsa recipes call for cilantro. I didn't do cilantro because I know a lot of people can't stand it. Some people love it. But you have to make sure it's cooked as you add it. So like if you're adding 3 tablespoons of chopped cilantro, you got to cook it for about 10 minutes to make sure it's cooked before you can it. Not sure what the science behind that is. I just know that it's true. So you have to do that. You can't, this is interesting. The recipe that I used here calls for a cup of vinegar. And I don't like vinegar in my salsa, but I did research, and you can safely substitute bottled lemon or lime juice for the vinegar in a recipe. You can't go the other direction. Like if it's lemon juice, you can't, the recipe calls for lemon juice, you can't add vinegar to it, but you can do it the other way around. They weren't real clear. It was on the home preservation website. But this particular brand, Lakewood, is pure organic. They have lemon and lime juice, and they are calibrated to 5% acidity. You can't use fresh limes or lemons in canning because they're all different. They can't verify the level of acidity in them. And it's the level of acidity is what keeps things safe. So that's really important. But you can substitute vinegar, yes.
What are the repercussions from having it too acidic or too basic?
If it's too basic, then your possibility, there's a possibility of botulism. Yeah. It's really important. It's botulism is the thing that you worry about most in canning.
This is a serious canning.
It's serious because you don't want to get really sick.
So we had a question from TS online.
Yeah.
She was asking about steam canning for veggies. Can you give us some examples of vegetables that you've been able to steam?
You can't do any vegetables.
Just tomatoes?
Unless they're pickled.
Okay.
I mean, like a salsa, it has a cup of, the recipe I'm using has a cup of added lime juice.
Okay.
You can safely can tomatoes, but even when you're canning, like I did a whole 40 pounds of tomatoes this summer, and I made it into a chili starter is really what I call it. It had a lot of cumin and chili powder and stuff in it. And I put 2 tablespoons per pint of lemon juice in the bottom of the bottom of the jar before I canned it to bring up the acidity. Because if you do pH on tomatoes, many tomatoes are low acid now, and you can't do that. But vegetables are the things that you can't steam can. You have to pressure can those, and that's what we'll be doing in the next workshop. But you cannot do that. Are there any other questions online?
No, Kathy was just asking for you to talk about some of the new low acid tomato varieties, which you just did, so you're good.
Yeah. So it's just you're throwing your hands in the air and you're going, maybe this is an acidic tomato, and maybe it's not. A lot of the yellow ones for sure are low acid, but I have not checked the pH of the ones that I grew, the San Marzano tomatoes that we're using in this salsa today, and I haven't checked the acid level in them, but I would never feel comfortable recommending just doing, just canning those without extra added acid. Any other questions? Okay, can you go start heating up some water? So I think the first thing we're going to do is I'm having a little trouble getting I was going to do apple butter first, but I think I'm going to let it reduce just a little bit more. So in my pot, just a second, I'll be right back. I got to get my pot.
Do you want me to grab that for you?
I got it right here. This is the salsa that I made, and it has 5 pounds of tomatoes that are just chopped in the food processor, a pound of onions, 2 pounds of peppers, a cup of, it calls for vinegar, but I use lime juice because I think it tastes better. And I didn't put, do you have any salt? Need 3 teaspoons of salt, which I suppose you could leave out, but I'm going to use it just this time. And what we do with this is we will heat this on the it's messed up. We'll heat it on the stove for and simmer it, bring it up to a boil and simmer it for like 10 minutes. It has to be hot. The method we're going to use for both of these is called the hot pack method. Michael is putting those jars in the thank you in the steam canner to warm up, because they need to warm up a little bit before we do this, because everything has to be hot. And the reason for that is you want everything to be the same temperature, because otherwise you may shock the jars and the jars may decide to break, and we don't want that to happen. Yeah, put it on high, please. And so I'm going to take this to the stove. You're going with me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And we're going to heat this up, and then we'll come back over here and can it. So while we're doing that, I'll tell you about some of the things that I've been canning this year, because I've been doing a lot of it. I have started canning. When Hurricane Helene happened, I was watching a video of this woman in Asheville who excuse me, in Asheville, who talked about she had lots of beans and rice in her pantry, lots of dried beans and lots of rice, and it didn't do her any good, because guess what? There was no electricity for a long time. And so what she did was she decided that she had to start canning dried beans. And I got to thinking about that, and I was thinking, what if we had an ice storm here, you know? How would I get, I mean, of course you can have cans of food in your refrigerator, in the pantry, but the thing that got me was I thought, I've got all these dried beans. Why don't I can them? And so I've started canning dried beans. I've also started making veggie broth and canning that, and it's shelf stable, and almost, I save all my scraps and make veggie broth, and I've canned that. That all has to be pressure canned. And I've made jams, and I've still got muscadine grapes in my freezer that I've got to do for jam and stuff, but I've done those kinds of things. I've made pickles. I made quite a lot of pickles this year. And I know that several people wanted pickles as a thing, but can't do it in October. There's no good cucumbers, for pickles. But the pickles that I made are really quite good. They're made with pickling lime, which is calcium chloride, I think, and you soak it. You soak the cucumbers sliced or in spears in this calcium chloride water for a few hours, and it crisps them up. Then you rinse them a few times, and then you make the brine, and then you can them, and they're delicious and they're crunchy. That's always been the thing. The first batch I didn't do that with, and I was making bread and butter pickles, and they're delicious, but they're so soft. Yes.
Have you ever done cold canning? My relatives, and it was just with pickles that's happened, cold canning.
And how did that work?
It was great. I've done it a few times, tons of years ago, and it's like refrigeration. I already had the packet of spice for the cucumbers and the
Oh yeah, I've made refrigerator pickles. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, yeah. Those are not shelf stable, but they work great in the fridge. Yeah. Yeah, they're delicious. And you can always, the good thing about refrigerator pickles is they're always crispy. but using this pickling lime, my mother-in-law used to use it. And she'd make sweet pickles, but I don't make sweet pickles because I don't want to eat the sugar. And so I make dill pickles with it. I, use fresh dill and garlic and stuff in each jar, and they're delicious. So that's what I've been doing. I have an electric pressure canner. It's by Nesco. There's one by Nesco and there's one by Presto. And what makes those great is you don't have to watch them so carefully. I've always been a little intimidated by pressure canners on the stove and keeping it to the right level and all that kind of stuff. And these, you just set it and it does the work, and then it's over. So what we're going to do here, when this comes up to a boil and I start timing it for 10 minutes, I'm going to turn this down now. We just need to heat up these jars. Huh? Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't have to be steaming for this. We're going to put these in the jars. One of the other things I wanted to say is we will be debubbling this because it has chunks of things in it, and you want to make sure that the chunks aren't trapping air in the jars and stuff like that. And then we'll can this for, I think it's 10 minutes. I can see it. I can see it. Yeah. No, 15 minutes. So the way this steam canner works is we'll start timing, and when the 15 minutes is up, we will turn off the stove, not open the canner, and leave it there for another 10 minutes because we don't want it to shock, the air differentiation to change, because what can happen is something called siphoning, where the lids are not totally stuck down when in the process, they're still not sealed completely, and stuff will boil out and stuff. So you want to always leave it for a little bit and let it settle before you bring it out. And then you pull out your jars, and they have to sit for 18 to 24 hours without being moved. So like, I was going to give you all this to take home. You'll have to get it next month because we'll leave it here.
That's a good way to get people to come back.
That's it. That's it.
I heard Elizabeth was going to deliver. We're taking orders.
I'll come back over here tomorrow and make sure everything's sealed, because if one of them doesn't seal, it'll need to be in the refrigerator and be used because it won't be shelf stable. The other thing I would say is sometimes you can hear the jars ping. A lot of lids, you can hear it when they seal. These particular 4 jars lids, you can't hear it, so you have to just come back and look. There's a little, I can pass one of these jars around. There's a little bump on the top of here that stays up, and when the jar seals, it goes flat, and that's how you know the jars have sealed. And when you're storing jars, the new I gotta get back over here. The new recommendation is you store them without the bands on them, because it can give you a false seal, and you want to know if your lid has come undone, because it might be it would be dangerous and you'd need to throw it away, throw the contents away. You can always use the jar again, but so you want to so all of the jars on my shelves look like this, and I have tons of bands that I just use again and again. But it's really important to store jars that way, because that way, if for some reason your seal can fail after it's been on the shelf for a while. Can you start timing this, Michael? 10 minutes. I can't, and people have asked me before about, I'm going to move back over here, Cheryl, is that okay?
Yeah.
Have asked me before about if you can, there are some things you can't can, like you can't can butternut squash that's been mashed, because they can't guarantee that the heat has penetrated something that thick. It's the same thing with like refried beans. When you can beans, you want to can them whole, and then if you want to make refried beans, you just drain them out and mash them when you get ready to use them, because it's it's so important not to not to do something that's unsafe. So there you will see that there are not recipes for those things. You might find a recipe for sweet potatoes canned in water or syrup, but not sweet potatoes that are mashed and stuff like that. So there's different things. I don't like canned sweet potatoes. I would much rather have them fresh, and they store so well that I don't see really a need for canning them, because I've held sweet potatoes in the bottom of my closet for like a whole year, and they've been fine, you know. So there's some things that I think people want to can, and I'm not sure why, you know. Yes.
Mona has a question. She says, if a seal fails for a soup, should the soup be tossed?
If it is coming out of the canner and it's failed within the first few hours, no, you don't have to toss it. You can put it in the refrigerator and eat it in the next couple of days. If it fails on your shelf, yes, toss it. Yes.
So anything mashed. So I can't do Dana's ricotta vegan cheese because it's mashed.
That's correct. You can't can it. You could freeze it, but you can't can it. A lot of those kinds of things, I just recommend that you freeze them instead of can them, because that works fine, you know. Sorry. Yes.
What about sauerkraut? I'm trying to make it, and it turns now like mold, like a white mold, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I'm trying to make sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut?
You're fermenting it, right?
Yes.
It's probably, I don't know this for sure, but my guess is it's because it has to be under the brine all the time, and if it's floated up, like you need to put a weight on top of it to keep it submerged under the liquid. That's usually the reason why a fermentation.
Yeah, this is now full up to the top. That's
But is the cabbage full at the top too?
no, that's the thing that I haven't put it up to the top,
Okay.
and I leave like a gap like in between the top and
Yeah. You need to keep a weight on top of the, like cabbage.
In
And-
the pot.
Yeah,
whatever
in the
it's
crock or whatever you're in the jar. Yeah, there are these weights there are fermentation weights that you can buy, but you can do it with. I've seen people do it with a bag, a Ziploc bag that's got water in it, that just pushes it down. You just need to keep it underneath. You need to keep all of the cabbage under the liquid. That's my guess. I'm not a real fermentation expert. The other thing that you can do if you have a question like that is to call the county extension office, and they have experts that can help you with that. So it's really kind of an important thing, because you won't want to eat that because of the mold on it. You know, you probably need to start over. I hate to tell you that, but I think you probably need to start over with that. Anybody else? Any other questions? How much time do we have left? 5 minutes. Okay. It's boiling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's boiling.
Turn it down. Turn it down just a little bit, will you? Turn it down to medium. It does smell good, doesn't it? Yes.
So approximately how many cans do you currently have, and where are they stored? Approximately.
Oh my goodness. Well, I usually can for my family. I like these tall 1.5 jars, and I probably have 3 dozen of those. And then I have about 3 dozen of those. Most of them, a lot of them have food in them right now, so they're on my pantry shelves with food in them. But in the winter, when we've gone through all the food, and you know, I just find places to store them. Sometimes they're under my bed. Sometimes I just find little places to put them, because you want to keep your jars. They're like gold, really. You know.
So you have a couple hundred, you think?
Oh no, not anymore. I used to can a lot more than I do now. I'm more selective about my canning now, and because I was realizing that we weren't going through everything that I was canning. You're gonna have some right here. Come back next month. You can pick something up. Yeah. Anyway, that's usually what I do, and I do have quite a few jars, and people are usually pretty good about giving them back to you, because they want you to fill it up again. You know, that's not a problem. And if they don't, I'm fine with it. You know, if they're going to use it for something else, that's great. So
I bet you have cute labels too.
2 minutes.
I do have labels, yes, and I don't have the which is great.
You can just write on the lid.
Yeah, you can write on the lids with a Sharpie, 3 years old, that we're still going through, and it's fine. You know, they last quite a while. In fact, I've read several stories about people who they lived to tell the story, so I guess it was fine. You know. Let me see. I think this is probably ready. What we're going to do is bring it over here. Yeah, that's close enough. I'm going to go back over here with this so we can can it where people can see. Okay. So, if you can, you're gonna have to use the jar lifter and bring me jars at a time. Timer went off. Oh, and I need the lids. So, These call for a 1/2 inch of headspace. Okay.